Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for our late start. We ran a little late on our work session a little earlier, and so I'd like to call this meeting of the City Council for July 21st to order at 7:17 p.m. With that said, I call to order. First order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance, and only because it's tradition. Richard, would you lead us? States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is communications from the public. Do we have any communications from the public on any matter that is not a public agenda, a public meeting this evening? Yes. Please approach and name and address for the record.
Hello, everyone. Once again, for the record, my name is Z, and my address is 418 East 2nd Street. Well, to quote Yogi Berra, it's like deja vu all over again. Or, for the non-boomers, with apologies to Britney Spears, oops, they did it again. Whitefish PD called CBP. This time for a passenger with, quote, an active alert for an immigration warrant, end quote. According to an article in the July 16th, 2025 edition of the Whitefish Pilot, Chief Kelch, and I quote from the article, did not directly answer a question regarding the nature of the immigration warrant and the agency that issued it. Furthermore, department policies state that, quote, an officer should not detain any individual for any length of time for a civil violation of federal immigration laws or a related civil warrant, end quote. In a Whitefish Pilot article dated July 9th, 2025, Councilor Norton stated, quote, there was a discussion about the direction going forward, end quote, after the injustice perpetrated upon Becer Rengifo del Castillo. It appears that Whitefish Police Department is on a slippery slope towards eroding community trust and creating opportunities for discrimination and racial profiling. Remember, our children are watching. And remember, history will not judge you kindly. Thank you.
Thank you, Z. Any other public comment? Richard.
Fire. Go. Yes. Giuseppe, I'm going to talk about fire, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to talk
Please
about
approach
fire.
the podium.
And I am fired up, and I'm telling you why I'm fired up. We have to admit it. We are not.
Richard Hildner.
Oh, sorry. We are not a fire-adapted community. My name is Richard Hildner, and I live at 104 5th Street, Whitefish, Montana. We are one of 8 communities in Montana at the highest risk from wildfire. Yes, it's difficult for me to talk about wildfire when it's been raining and it's damp and everything is green. That won't last forever. It may last this fire season, but I doubt it. But there's fire seasons coming behind it. On July 13th, Opicolo's should have been a wake-up call. What if this had been fire season, 20 miles an hour, mid-August, blowing from west to east? It would have run towards Columbia Falls, house by house, by structure by house. The following day, we had extremely high winds. the power was knocked out. Seven fires were started when trees went across power lines operated by Flathead Electric. In many cases, these were right-of-ways that had already been cleared of hazard trees, but the trees on the private properties next to that right-of-way were not. One of those fires was at the base of Hell Roaring Creek. Hell Roaring Creek is oriented directly west to east, straight up the big mountain. Had this been fire season, had we had those strong, or we did have those strong winds, the fire, and I have provided you with fire growth maps that would show where that fire would have gone. The July lightning storm that we had recorded 30 lightning strikes on Lion Mountain. One of those resulted in a fire. 30 lightning strikes, late August, would have had a much different result. We cannot wait to begin taking steps to prepare our community for fire. We cannot do nothing as we await the preparation of a community wildfire prevention or protection plan, a CWPP. That has been used as an excuse why we're not doing anything. Oh, we're going to have a CWPP, just wait. We cannot wait for April to come along, next April, before the CWPP will see the light of another day. What can you do now? I have talked about some of these things in the past, but I want to reiterate them. We can review our building codes and revise them where necessary with an eye towards our fire preparedness. We can do that now. We can rewrite and write new codes to reflect the necessity and the urgency of creating a fire-prepared community. We can look at our codes to discuss and create criteria for building materials, architectural standards, landscaping materials, and no one should be planting a juniper tree next to their house or anywhere on their property. We ought to prohibit them, quite frankly, anywhere in the city. We can require vacant lots with tall, dry grass to be mowed. I've heard it said, no, we can't force people to mow their lawns, but we can if there are at least 2 noxious weeds on those properties. Find me a vacant lot that doesn't have at least bindweed, oxeye daisy, Canada thistle, tansy, orange and yellow hawkweed, and of course the ever-present knapweed. We can condemn structures that present a threat to human health and safety. In previous, call them diatribes if you will, in previous discussions, I provided you with at least 3 different locations of structures that are every bit as vulnerable as oak piccolos. Yet nothing has happened. If you continue to do nothing, it could be constructed as a dereliction of duty. You will be held accountable by the citizens of this city. And certainly you will be asking for lawsuits if you sit on your hands and do nothing, and you cannot say to anyone, we at least got started on the process. Flathead Electric has been working diligently to clear their right-of-ways and to convince their neighbors on either side of their right-of-ways to allow them to take the threatening trees that are on their property, and some agree and some do not. I urge you to move now, today, not tomorrow, not next April, but today, to take action to protect our community from wildfire.
Thank you, Richard. Any other public comment? Any public comment online, Michelle? No. Okay, great. Next, we have communication from volunteer boards. Any volunteer boards in the audience? Leaving, not a volunteer board. Okay. Any volunteer boards from council? I have a little bit of a report. I agreed to do this on behalf of the planning board so that council remains current on what they're doing and what they haven't done. I will say that the last meeting they had was incredibly productive. They've reviewed the schedule for the growth policy and are fully committed to it. They completed the review of, I guess, the public facilities portion of the growth plan and completed it. I know that the chair has spoken with our city manager and is committed to fostering this process through. As based on my attendance of the meeting, it looks like now that, given the schedule that they've agreed to and that they will commit to, they will be back on track for completing this in early December with this through August, and we'll be on track for getting it completed by the time they want it. We all want it completed, so we have it in our hands. So I think good progress has been made. They've elected a new chair who was the vice chair before. Whitney has done a very good job with her first couple of meetings. The vice chair is Toby Scott, who's been on the board for many, many years. And so I think they've got a good working group, and I think they're organized pretty well. And that's the report from our friends at the Planning Board or Community Development Board. Yeah. With that, we have the consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? All those in favor? All those opposed, like sign. Matter passes unanimously. And on to our first public hearing, which is going to be our resolution number 2513, a resolution to annex and incorporate within the city boundaries of the city of Whitefish by petition and consent the property of the property owner approximately 0.881 acres of land known as Parcel A, unaddressed along the Whitefish River adjacent to JP Road.
Good evening.
There we go.
Hello.
Thanks.
So this is a request by the city of Whitefish to annex in and zone a piece of property right next to the Whitefish River north of JP Road. Currently, the property is in the county and is zoned County R3 and County R2.5. The proposed city zoning is WR1, which is the exact same zoning as the adjacent park that it's going to be joining up. It's surrounded by residential uses, a city park, and undeveloped property. It has a land use designation of rural. Last meeting, you guys adopted a resolution to set this public hearing tonight. So again, we're proposing that the zoning be WR1, which is exactly what the property adjacent to it is zoned, that other park, the Riverwood Park. It is, we usually look at kind of filling gaps and stuff for annexations. This isn't really filling a gap, but it is going to expand the park area along the Whitefish River. It is within the urban growth area. It's not connected to any city utilities. Again, the growth policy designation is rural, which mostly comports with the WA and WA20, a WA10 and a WA20, which were yet to be determined, and are generally located in areas of important farmland. So the WR1 zoning is an urban designation, which doesn't comply with the growth policy, but it is the same zoning as the adjacent property, and the property will be held in the form of a parkland and won't be developed to a WR1 zoning designation. Again, the property is sandwiched between the river and the Riverwood Park and JP Road, and it is expanding and maintaining public access to water and considering the zoning on the property adjacent to this area. WR1 is the most equivalent. The WR1 and the WCR would be most equivalent, but it's not really the best practice to have one piece of property have multiple zoning districts. So it's more compliant to zone the whole thing WR1. So staff has reviewed this, and we are recommending annexation and rezone to WR1. We did receive one public comment, and that individual, which that packet, or is in your packet, was just concerned with the future use of the property. Can I answer any questions for you?
And the future use of the property as a park.
Park, yeah,
Thanks.
park and open space.
Sure.
So Wendy, I think Dave said that we don't have a way to annex and change it to a parkland
'Cause
designation.
we don't have a parkland zoning district.
Right, and if we wanted to change that, could that be part of the growth policy update, or is that just something that we
That
could?
could be, yeah, one of the action items for the growth policies to come up with a parkland or park, open space zoning district. I think Dave kind of started working on one.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we got that
That's,
tagged and done someplace, because it seems so awkward
Yeah.
what you're doing. Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions for Wendy on her staff report? We advertised for a public hearing, and we would entertain any public comment at this time. Going once, going twice. Anybody online? Not seeing anybody online. With that, I'll close the public hearing and open to entertain a motion.
What's the number? Oh, go ahead.
And Andy,
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I would move that we approve resolution number 25-13.
I second it.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed, like sign. Matter passes unanimously again. With that said, we now move on to communications from our Parks and Recreation Director, considering authorizing a bid for the City Beach Boat Ramp Extension and Boat Inspection Driveway. Maria?
Good evening. My staff report is on page 196 of your packet. As you all may know, the existing boat ramp at City Beach has experienced extensive erosion due to boat propulsion, particularly power loading during trailering, and this generates strong underwater currents. This activity has undercut the base of the ramp, displaced lakebed sediment, and significantly weakened the ramp's structural integrity. The current condition creates safety concerns for users and contributes to environmental degradation. So to mitigate these issues, we've been working with Brandon Tice of Civil Solutions to design improvements for the boat ramp. Additionally, the boat inspection drive lane has historically had a tight turning radius, resulting in several boats coming in contact with the roof of the inspection station multiple times a year. So we would like to widen that drive lane to lessen the likelihood of vehicular collisions with our roof. Civil Solutions has created design plans for both projects, and Brandon is here this evening to answer any questions that you might have about the engineering of the project. In order to reinforce the boat ramp and stabilize the eroded lake bed, we plan to install precast concrete panels over a foundation of crushed stone, riprap, beneath the ramp. This will stabilize approximately 980 square feet of the submerged ramp base with an additional 400 square feet of riprap extending beyond to prevent future undercutting from boat propulsion. Our goal is to provide a more durable ramp surface that can withstand heavy seasonal use and reduce the risk of trailers dropping off the end of the ramp during low water levels, which does happen as well. The work is planned for October when lake levels are at their lowest, and the duration will be kept as brief as possible to minimize disruption. We will use silt fencing, turbidity curtains, and containment measures to protect water quality and aquatic habitat. We would also like to resurface the access driveway, install a curb, and reinforce the embankments within the Lakeshore Protection Zone. Limited tree removal is required, and all disturbed areas will be replanted with native vegetation. A separate floodplain development permit is being obtained as part of the project, along with other required state and federal approvals. All permitting for the project is scheduled to be finalized by September 2nd of 2025. So assuming that we are authorized to proceed with bidding, the following schedule is proposed for the construction of the improvements. August 10th to the 17th, we would the bid advertisements would go out. August 22nd would be the bid opening. September 2nd is when we would have the approval of the lakeshore permit, hopefully, and the council bid award. That's when that would be coming back to you. September 29th, we would like to begin construction of the boat ramp extension. October 27th, we should meet substantial completion. And then May 4th, we would begin the boat inspection drive lane, hopefully ending by May 29th. There is a financial requirement. The current preliminary construction cost is $193,000, so that's $120,000 for the boat ramp extension and $73,000 for the inspection station drive lane improvements. The FY26 CIP is being updated to reflect the $193,000 expenditure in the final budget that is going to be presented to you on August 4th. We should note that we are aware that many contractors do right now have full workloads this fall, so we anticipate we might receive fewer bids than we desire. However, we have adjusted our cost estimates to reflect this, and we do believe that we will be accurate within the current bidding market. The Parks and Recreation Department and the Park Board have reviewed the design for the City Beach Boat Ramp extension and inspection station drive lane improvements. Staff respectfully requests authorization to proceed with the bidding of both projects as presented in your report and as approved by the Park Board. And Brandon and I are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Maria? Andy?
Just a couple of questions. So Maria, we're not extending the concrete portion of the ramp at all, correct?
We are extending it, yes,
Okay.
and reinforcing what is
Yeah.
there.
Okay. And how much extension then?
Brandon, you want to kind of get into some of the
Remember- I
design
didn't see it on there. I was
cases
like,
of it?
24 and a half feet.
24 now, okay. All right. And then will there be any access to the lake from City Beach for boats while the construction is happening?
No,
No.
not for that 1 month.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna have a coffer dam out there that will prevent use of the boat ramp during that time.
So one thing we'll want to do when we do this is really notify everybody, unless you want to go to State Park, get your boat out before that date.
We are working with State Park to allow our commercial individuals to be able to move over to State Park without having to receive additional commercial permits through State Park. Because at some point in the future, they're going to need to do the same type of improvement, and so they'll want that reciprocity. So we're going to take turns.
My only question.
Great. Any other questions for Maria? Okay, seeing none. With that, I would, Ben? I would.
Yes. I would move to authorize the city to bid the City Beach Boat Ramp Extension Project.
I second it.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed, like sign. That matter passes unanimously as well. Next up, we have communications from the Planning and Building Director. No?
Frank, Fire Chief, is up first.
Who?
Number 8.
Oh, no, Fire Chief, you're right. I went right by you. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to.
No problem.
Actually, you might have preferred that I went right by you.
I mean, maybe. Depends. Depends on how this goes. Good evening. So for an introduction, the fire department's strategic plan identified a goal to apply for Assistance of Firefighters grant in the first quarter of 2024 to support the purchase of an aerial ladder truck, with procurement scheduled to begin immediately upon grant approval. To date, the department has submitted 2 applications, one in 2023 and the other in 2024, both of which were denied. In the most recent grant cycle, FEMA awarded 1,635 AFG grants totaling $324 million. However, they received just shy of 8,000 applications requesting over $3.7 billion in funding. So that grant process has proven to be extremely hard to get into. The Whitefish Fire Department is requesting direction on how to proceed with the financing and procurement of the ladder truck. Based on strategic goals, operational needs, anticipated response demands, and growth within the response area, the department has prioritized the acquisition of an aerial apparatus with an estimated cost between $1.5 and $2 million, with a projected delivery time of 3 to 4 years from the date of order. The fire department currently operates without a ladder truck, limiting aerial access during structure fires, particularly in multi-story commercial and residential buildings. The city's increasing vertical development and growing demand for advanced fire and rescue capabilities, the addition of a ladder truck has become a critical infrastructure priority. The recent structure fire in Whitefish on July 13th required not one, but 2 ladder trucks, one from Kalispell and one from Columbia Falls, to protect neighboring buildings and to fight the fire. Recognizing the extended lead times and rising costs in the fire apparatus industry, it is essential that the city initiate the procurement process as soon as possible. Given the substantial investment, staff has outlined 3 potential financing strategies for council's consideration. Option number 1 would be an intercap loan program. This approach would utilize the Montana Board of Investments intercap loan program, allowing for up to a 15-year loan with no down payment required or prepayment penalties. There is an example of this process laid out in the staff report. Pros for the intercap loan that can be paid for with current available carryover mills. No voter approval is required. Lower upfront taxpayer impact, flexibility in prepayment, timely procurement avoids future cost increases. And the cons would be dependent on available carryover mills and market interest rates. Legislative uncertainty on carryover capacity after fiscal year 27. Option 2, voted levy with a bond in the November 2026 election. This option proposed going to the voters in November 2026 with a general obligation bond tied to a voted levy. This proposed bond could include funding for the ladder truck along with other fire apparatus needs. Pros would be an opportunity to address multiple apparatus needs in one vote, potential long-term sustainable funding. The cons would delay the process till after the 2026 vote, potential for increased apparatus costs due to inflation and time, uncertain election outcome, additional election campaign expenses, delayed ordering and delivery of ladder truck by an additional year. And option 3 would be cash funded with annual mill levy. This scenario funds the ladder truck entirely through future annual levies under the city's general authority. The impact would require several years of high mill levies to generate full costs. Impractical given inflation and burden on taxpayers, and the risk would be truck prices may outpace the savings, not allowing us to reach our target cash savings. The pros of this option would be no debt is incurred, simple budgeting mechanism, and the cons would be significant delay in truck acquisition, high annual tax impact, long-term exposure to apparatus cost escalation, continued risk and exposure to community due to lack of rescue platform and elevated master stream capabilities within the fire department's fleet. Recommendation, staff recommends proceeding with option 1, the intercap loan program, leveraging carryover mills in fiscal year 27 to support the purchase. This option provides the most timely, cost-effective path to procurement and avoids delays that could increase the final price and jeopardize operational readiness. The timeline, if we were to go with option number 1, finalize ladder truck specifications in August. City Council approval to proceed with bid also in August. Bids issued and received in September. City Council award contract to place order October 2025. Council levies 2 mills for fiscal year 27 in August of 2026. And in March of 2027, submit the intercap loan application, and estimated delivery of the truck would be October 2028. Staff is requesting direction from City Council as to the preferred approach to procure and finance a ladder truck. If option 1 is approved, staff will proceed with the development of final truck specifications for bid process as outlined in the timeline above. Additionally, an updated financial analysis of the preferred financing options will also accompany the request for approval to proceed with bidding the ladder truck that would be scheduled to come before City Council in late August.
Thanks, Cole. Any questions for Cole? Go ahead.
So Cole, when it says bid issued and received, does that mean because they're in such demand that you have to go out to different companies to get a bid from them to fulfill the order? Or I'm not sure what the bid means. I guess I thought it was like a car lot where they had ladder trucks sitting there, and then we said we want one, and then they say, okay, let us have it. But what you're saying is that's not how it works. It's yeah, and the bid is that you have to go to different companies. I thought there were very few companies that did it, but would you explain it a little bit more? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the reason we have to go out to bid is because of the dollar amount in the purchasing policy for the city. Anything over $80,000, we have to go out to bid, and then look at those bids to make sure that they meet our specifications, and then we choose the lowest receptive bidder. There are quite a few companies that are building ladder trucks anymore. There's probably, that I am aware of, 10 to 15, but there's probably more.
Okay, so there are plenty of companies.
Yep.
We're just constrained because we're a government.
Yeah, and
entity.
there's not very many options for fire apparatus in general for ready to purchase. Primarily, it's custom build to your order. So the pro of that is that we can build it to our needs and not necessarily get stuck with, say, options that we don't need that we're just paying extra for.
Okay, all right, and that's why it takes so long to get one too.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a long line of people waiting to get all their parts together to build their truck. So the current lead times are 3 to 4 years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ben?
So, option 2, is this is the comprehensive capital plan for fire equipment where you take each apparatus and you divide it up by the number of years, and then you have a levy that just covers it all going forward?
Yes.
I remember when we discussed this last time, that seemed like a decent option. I was just curious why that wasn't the recommended way to go.
I might let Dana answer that.
No problem. There is a significant delay in the ordering of this truck, is why we wouldn't do that. We still have to go through a significant amount of analysis on the fire apparatus. Also, with the ladder truck being $1.5 million to $2 million, it's you're just increasing the costs of that voted levy. The fire department, I should say, has created a planned replacement schedule for all of its apparatus. This truck would replace the rescue truck, is my understanding. And so it would be one replacement. But I think given the uncertainty of voter approval, the process it goes through to issuing general obligation debt, this is the most expedited process. And as we saw just this month, the need for Whitefish to have a ladder truck is critical. 3 to 4 years is already too long probably to wait, just given the risk of structure fires in town. We're grateful for our neighbors that were able to come and assist. But if you can imagine, and hopefully there's not a situation where we have high winds, but having the truck respond within 5 minutes versus 25 to 30 to an hour is absolutely needed. So that option is available without going to voters. The intercap loan program we have utilized in the past for all of our fire apparatus. So we would just be continuing that process until we create that bigger plan where we go to voters that would require education and so forth.
So we would eventually be doing the voted levy anyway.
Yes.
When do you think that would be?
Our goal is the November election in 2026.
So whether or not we do it now, we're still planning to do the voted levy.
Correct. We do have additional equipment that would need to be on a replacement schedule. In fact, we're actually exploring potentially including some police apparatus in that as well, police vehicles, just to have that be an overall emergency responder levy that funds capital. If we don't do this project we don't necessarily have to do a bond. We could go for the voted levy, start accruing those funds, and then use that as replacement over time versus if we go forward with the election for this to actually purchase that vehicle in enough time, we likely would have to bond some of that. And so it's just a different process. But we could just have a voted levy that way where we're collecting X dollars for capital replacement that wouldn't necessarily require financing.
Got it. And so are you saying in some ways it's just cleaner to have the levy just be replacement of existing equipment, not purchasing of new and replacement, like all mixed together?
That too, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, my other question was, what about the, you briefly mentioned the strategic plan that we've adopted for the ladder truck. The plan does call for this purchase, is that correct?
Correct. The master plan, as well as the strategic plan, calls for the purchase of this piece of apparatus. The strategic plan was, first attempt was try to get a grant. We've done that twice. We've failed both times, unfortunately. And then the next step was to explore a voted levy in the beginning of fiscal year 26. When we drafted that plan, that was really like the option we really had that was at our fingertips. We didn't contemplate a 3 to 4 year delivery time when we created that by any means. And so now that we know that delivery time, and I've contacted the Intercap program, who we've worked with before for all of our apparatus purchases. They were positive that would be something they could finance for us as long as we had the mills levied to to pay for the debt service.
Any other comments or questions? I mean, I think this is about as elegant a solution as we can come up with. I mean, this still allows for us, if money falls into our laps, we can pay it off early, and it's nothing but or we find another way to finance it, or we end up with a grant. This, I think, is about as elegant as we can get in terms of getting started on this acquisition. Pardon? Yes.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I move to give direction to the staff to proceed with evaluating and pursuing option 1 intercap loan program.
My comments stand. Any further comments?
I wanted to say what you said, Frank.
I'm really thankful that we're proceeding with this because we've known we've needed it for a long time, so thank you for figuring out financing.
Yeah, if I could, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and support this motion. I do think that this town is beyond the size where this is probably needed. I would just like to say, though, that I would like to see us follow through with the voted levy capital plan. I think it's important that in the future we structure things in such a way that the fire department has essentially all the permanent funding they need to operate going forward, and we're not having to make fire truck decisions all the time. And instead we have a long-term plan that we follow. So anyway, I just wanted to say I hope we do follow through with that, and I look forward to talking about it further.
Any further comments? All those in favor? All those opposed, like sign. The matter passes unanimously. And now we go on to communications from our planning and building director.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and councilors. So we recently put out a request for proposals, an RFP for professional planning consultants in order to help us with our land use element of our Vision Whitefish 2045 comprehensive plan update. In reviewing those proposals and selecting a consultant, we have to put together a ratings panel and a selection panel, both approved by the City Council. The ratings panel would be entirely city staff that would go through the proposals and basically pare them down to a few of them that would be manageable to interview. And then the selection panel would be made up of 2 staff members and an elected official, so either the mayor or one of you councilors. The proposals are due next Friday, so July 25th, and then we'll probably go through those and have our interviews sometime in the first or second week of August, whenever we can get those set up with whatever consultants that we choose. We're looking at just a preliminary estimate of around $200,000. As you probably remember, we received that pro-housing HUD grant of $391,000, some of which is going to go towards our community wildfire protection plan. So basically, we recommend that you guys appoint me, Alan Tiefenbach, and Wendy Compton-Ring to serve on the ratings panel to go through the initial proposals. And then as far as the selection committee, we recommend that you appoint myself and Alan Tiefenbach and one of yourselves to serve on the selection panel, which would be, like I said, probably the second week of August.
Great. Ben, go.
I'm willing to volunteer for this, but I don't need to do it if somebody else really wants to.
I almost feel compelled to do it as the council representative on the planning board. Again, I could be talked out of it, but I guess what I would offer the group is that I would like to do it under the circumstances, depending upon scheduling. If for any reason I can't attend whenever they get those meetings scheduled, would you do it?
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Okay, does that satisfy? Which is the perfect thing to do, is appoint him when he's not here. Do you need anything else from us on that? Okay.
A motion.
So you got me and Ben.
Yeah.
It would probably be best to just do that as a motion and vote on it, so we have that for the record.
Somebody make the
For
motion.
both of those, the ratings panel and the selection panel.
Right. Sure.
I make a motion to approve a rating panel and selection committee, for the professional planning services land use element comprehensive plan. Did that make sense?
Does to me.
Okay.
Second it.
And appointing Ben and I.
And we'll be appointing Frank Sweeney as the primary and Ben Davis as secondary to act as council representatives on these committees.
And I second that part too.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed, like sign. And you've got your answer. Thank you. Communications from our city attorney.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and City Council members. My staff report begins on page 234 of your packet. As we are all acutely aware, for better or for worse, social media has revolutionized the way that we communicate with each other. In 2005, according to one study, only 5% of Americans used a social media platform. 10 years later, a little less than 10 years later, that increased to 72%. As a governmental entity, we are not immune from the social media revolution. Courts move kind of slowly, but they are now recognizing that social media is a way that people communicate, that businesses communicate, and that governments communicate. And in recent years, they've been, I guess, more than willing to hold employers liable for what their employees are doing on social media. I think one good example was last year, the Ninth Circuit decided a case where the employer was a prison. I believe it was the HR director was subject to some actually horrible sexual harassment. It was done by another employee off duty on his personal Instagram account. And basically the Ninth Circuit held that even though that this had been sanctioned by the employer, that they knew it was going on and that they could be held liable for the one employee's actions. This has a social media policy has been a council goal, I believe, for the last 2 fiscal years. And I think it became especially important last year when the Supreme Court decided the case Linkey v. Freed. I'm sure you guys are all aware of it because I think I wrote you an email shortly after it was decided. And not to bore you through the details, but I think it's kind of important to reiterate why we're doing this. This case involved a city manager who had a Facebook page, and I will call it a hybrid Facebook page. He posted personal things on it, but he also identified himself as the city manager. He posted updates about city business, again, kind of a hybrid. During COVID, he was posting various informational posts about what the city was doing to address the COVID pandemic. One member of the community, as we will recall from COVID, we had a lot of criticisms, posted some very critical comments, and he deleted those comments on his personal page, subsequently blocked the individual from commenting, and the city was sued. Their theory was that because he'd used this page to, promote city information as well as personal information, that the city was basically engaging in viewpoint discrimination when he deleted these negative comments. So the United States Supreme Court basically said it's very fact intensive, but they set some some guidelines, some bookends about when speech is actually considered governmental speech and when is considered personal speech. And the ramifications of that is, if city officials, city employees are using their personal Facebook as a way to communicate with citizens, that we have to be very careful of that. So we did create a social media policy. I'll go through some of the highlights of it. So basically it covers what we called authorized accounts. Those are city accounts. Those are accounts that are administered by city personnel. We have, I believe, a Parks and Rec page. We have a Public Works page. We have a General City page. So those are authorized accounts that really engage in city business. Personal accounts, I don't know how many of you have. Again, Facebook is the one that always comes to mind, but of course there's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's TikTok. I don't know how many other ones there are. LinkedIn, I guess. Personal accounts, again, are social media accounts that you as officials or us as employees have for personal reasons. And then there's some official accounts. Again, I know a couple of you have accounts that aren't necessarily personal in nature. They're accounts that you create as a city council member to update your citizens. So just a couple of the highlights: confidentiality. Again, and it does not matter if it's a personal account, an official account, or any kind of account. Please do not post confidential information, which I know none of you ever would. That, of course, includes things that we might talk about in executive session. As far as personal use goes, just again, the guidelines are try to avoid commingling your personal accounts with city business. It definitely is a very gray area. And like the city manager in the United States Supreme Court case, they could find that although you're posting stuff on your personal page, you've also posted city things, and therefore that the city might be liable for anything that you say or for any comments that you delete that you don't like, because that could be perceived as viewpoint discrimination. Things you probably don't want to do: don't use the city email in your personal account. Don't use the city logo. Don't link your profile with the city website without a disclaimer, and don't use the city in your identity. If you are posting, and I think it's very hard for us to do when we're wanting to educate people about city services, about city events, you should consider putting basically a disclaimer on your personal page stating that your profile are not representative of the city as a whole. As you folks know, you act collectively as council, not as individual council members. So if you do find yourself posting city information, I would consider very strongly putting a disclaimer on your personal website. I guess please keep in mind that whether or not you specify that your personal accounts are personal, I don't think the general public always realizes that. Be careful of what you post, because it could be looked at as representative of the city as a whole and not your personal viewpoint. Keep in mind, we don't archive your personal accounts, so anything that you post that could be the subject of a public records request, you're responsible for archiving that. We do not want to get involved as a city in RET and your personal accounts. Again, nothing's meant to discourage you guys from having an opinion about anything. You do not check your First Amendment rights when you become a council member. But again, just moving forward with the public perception that it could be you speaking on behalf of the city and not your personal views. Professional use, I'm not necessarily going to go into with any great detail because, again, our official accounts are maintained by city staff. But again, this will apply to city staff as well as to you folks. Authorized accounts, we can't post, of course, contents that's obscene, potentially libelous, hate-oriented, personal attacks, or personal opinions or political views. So this is, I think, one thing I should touch on. It's our city policy on official, like our professional use accounts, like official city accounts. We don't allow commenting. And that's, again, because if we delete comments that we consider inappropriate, that could be considered as viewpoint discrimination. There's also pretty wide latitude about what people can post under the First Amendment. We've decided to not engage in that. There are numerous other ways for people to comment on city business. They can attend city council meetings. They can get a hold of you folks individually. They can write us letters. But it is our policy not to allow the public to post on our city accounts. I think at one point we did allow it and things got kind of nasty. So, official accounts, these are accounts that you guys might maintain as a council member, not a personal email or a personal profile. It should clearly indicate that you're a member of city council, but you do not speak on behalf of the city. It is, if you're maintaining an official account, it's considered a limited public forum. Be very careful about deleting, again, comments. When in doubt, don't delete it. I don't know if you can, I guess I'm not social media enough to know if you can turn off the comments on your official account. You might consider doing that like the city does. Before you post any city document, if you're, just providing education to the citizens, please make sure it's in final form. Don't post draft forms because those can definitely change. Again, from my standpoint, do not communicate information, please, that's shared in executive session, personnel information, litigation strategy, any of that. Don't use the city's logo for commercial or personal gain, which I don't even think I have to caution you guys about. And express only your personal opinions. Don't represent yourself as a spokesperson for the city. We do, the city's principal website does remain the primary internet presence for all departments. And we do apparently collect IP addresses, browser information, and website visitation analysis. We use it for improving the reach and effectiveness of our websites. With that, I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Angie on her staff report? Rebecca?
Whoops, I'm on. Yeah, so I do get on Facebook, the Whitefish community group in particular, and I feel like I'm educating the public about how things work in the city. So would you prefer that I not do that? Because I'm actually doing it as a resident, but because I know more than the common person being on council and being on a zillion boards before this, that I feel like sometimes there's a runaway train with misperceptions. And I just wish we had someone in our city that was actually designated to stop those runaway trains, because people don't need to worry about things when we could just tell them this is how it works. But I'll defer to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca, I guess, again, you don't check your constitutional rights when you become a council member. I do want, when you're commenting on the Whitefish community page or those other kind of community forums, to make it very clear that you're not speaking for council. If you feel the need to educate people, you might consider having, an official, one of your own official accounts where that's, yeah. I mean, I do have concerns.
Sorry, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Again, we have, if I think the best way to do that, to avoid the runaway train that I've seen again and again and again on the community, the Whitefish community page, is simply refer whomever you feel has information to the correct official, like the city website, like the Public Works website, that would probably provide them the information they want and need, rather than get back into back and forth. So, I mean, that's my opinion. I can't, instruct you.
Well, some cities do have social media.
We do.
I know Kalispell does.
Yeah,
So
and
just
we've discussed
wondered
that.
why we don't
Well,
have
because-
something like that, since so much of our work now is on media.
We've discussed, at some point, hiring a public information officer that could take over that role. I mean, it's clearly on the budget now, and I don't know that when it will be in the budget or if it will be in the budget. But I think at this point, we really don't have a staff member that can sit there and basically troll social media to try to find misinformation and correct people. So, I mean, again, I can't tell you what to do, but rather than getting that back and forth, sometimes the easiest way is just to refer them to a city webpage that might answer their question, or refer them to a staff member that might be able to educate them on what they're curious about or what they're misinformed about.
Or put it on our council goals for the future. Since I think we have a really engaged public, and I think everybody loves to communicate in our town. I know we have divisiveness too, but I think it would be good for us to look at that at some point. So,
Thanks, Rebecca. Any other comments? I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 25-14 now. Are we at 14?
What is that?
A resolution of the City Council adopting the City of Whitefish social media policy.
I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, just a comment. I keep my personal profile very personal and to family and friends and sometimes public. I have a page that is identified as a city council member, and I use that, and there is a disclaimer on the page that my posts and my views are my own personal ones and do not represent the city staffs nor the other city council members. That's been since I was elected here, and so far, I think, with one exception where you two took me out and told me to take down a post, it's always worked. So if there are concerns, that can be done.
Thanks, Giuseppe. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed, like sign, and matter passes unanimously. On now to communications from our city manager, Dana.
Great. Good evening. You have my manager's report in the packet. I just want to add a little bit more information on the budget update. So August 4th, we'll be having a work session for those that have shared their estimated valuations that the Department of Revenue has given you. Thanks for sharing those with me. I want to just clarify one thing for the public, because I think I've seen it on social media, just like out on Flathead 411, and I do have some members of the public reaching out. Your valuations for your residents have gone up. It appears that we're seeing still some growth there. That valuation is as of December of 24, so you might see a cooling off now, but this is as of December. But the important part to look at is the next two columns where it shows your taxable value. So you might see your values going up, but your taxable value is going down. And that's the impact of Senate Bill 542 that was passed by the legislature. So keep that in mind. If you're stressed about the valuations going up, look at your taxable value, because that's what your taxes are going to be based on. Yes, cities and counties can adjust mills upwards to at least collect the same amount of revenue, but based on my estimates, I don't think that it's going to be a complete, you will still have some savings from as a residential property. My only other thing is I sent out a doodle poll for a retreat date. Does look like we have 2 dates that are at least stronger. If you haven't responded, please do by Friday. Right now, I think it was October 11th and November 1st were the ones that had the most responses. So please respond to that doodle poll if you can, so we can start looking for a facility where to hold that retreat. And with that, that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Dana on her staff report or otherwise? Not seeing any. Now we move on to communications from mayor and city councilors. We have a resolution, I think it's 25. I can't even find it now. Where are we? 15-15, a resolution establishing annual goals for the city. Any further discussion? I would entertain a motion otherwise. Sure.
Is it too late to add goals?
Yes,
Okay.
for this year.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I would move to approve resolution number 25-15. This is a resolution establishing our annual goals for the city.
And I second it.
Motion's made and seconded. Do we have any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay. That said, all those in favor? All those opposed, like sign, and that matter passes unanimously as well. We've already made our appointments for the volunteer boards and committees that we could make this evening, and so that's done. Next, we'll go to councilor comments, and I'll start with Giuseppe tonight.
Thank you. No comments.
Andy?
A couple things. Richard does keep coming in and talking to us, and I think that he has a lot to say. I will tell you that on Tuesday on Packrat Lane, there was a birch tree in the power line that was literally in flames, called FEC right away. And fortunately, they came out and they cut it down, and I have photos of it. So it's a very real thing, not just something that is esoteric and something that Richard gets on his soapbox about. And I think at least we made one step forward by ordering a ladder truck, although it won't be here for 4 years, but I think that we do invest in our fire department, and I know that we are working towards an over comprehensive plan. We'll get that done, but it's very real what he has to say. I do really want to recognize Shirley Jacobson, who passed away on July 8th. My first term as mayor, Shirley was on the council, and she was absolutely fabulous. And after I got elected, she didn't really know about me or who I was, and she invited me out to coffee and basically grilled me up one side and down the other. She had Mike Jensen as her mayor, and she'd known Mike for a long time, and she didn't know who the heck I was and what I was going to do. Ultimately, though, we became very, very good friends, and she served this community very, very well, and I've represented a point of view that isn't always represented in this town, and just a super wonderful lady, and lived to the ripe old age of 90. So, yeah, it's awesome. And, but she was a great person, and she'll be missed. So, to Shirley and her family, my condolences and sympathies, and the city will always owe her a debt of gratitude.
Thanks, Sandy. Rebecca?
Shirley was one of my patients, so I got to hold hands with her and talk to her quite a bit. When I won my seat, she got in touch with me. She just was really sharp and really always lovely. I just had a couple questions. One is, are buskers that play music downtown legal? Because I got asked that question. I don't know if Bridger wants to answer. I figured it was because we had a festival in town that we had so many musicians on the side streets, sidewalks. Do you want to answer that, Bridger?
Yes,
Can people legally play music downtown?
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
It would be considered they're expressing themselves. It's one of their constitutional rights.
Okay.
However, we do have some ordinances in place that if they're loitering and they're taking up more than their fair share of public space, we address that, and that's
Okay.
how we keep our sidewalks open and people able to pass by.
Thank you. And then people were, excellent job on getting the fire out. There was a lot of concern about an evacuation plan. And so I just wanted, maybe Cole, do you want to address how we're going to work with the public on the fire safety so they know that, or is that something that's not really discussed too much?
Generally, the evacuation plans are so individualized depending on the emergency that there's not a good way to put out, this is the evacuation plan, and I think that's what a lot of folks are really hoping they can have. There's ways for us to put together plans for specific our response in a certain area that's a troublesome area for folks. We could put together a plan for what we would like them to do in that instance. But everything's so dynamic depending on weather, wind conditions, time of year, how severe the fire season is, what type of emergency it is. Every one of those has a different evacuation plan. So having just one out there that says this is the plan or these are the routes gets to be difficult.
But I'm sure that we have those plans.
They're individualized depending on the
Right.
emergency. So if there was an incident near your home, the evacuation plan would be very different than if it was on the other side of town.
Yeah,
So-
because you practice and rehearse things over and over again in preparation. All right, thank you. The last thing is Bonnie got up to talk about something I had said and said that said that it was an injustice that someone was detained by the Border Patrol, and I did not say that. I really didn't know a lot about our immigration policies or how our police work even, and so I just wanted to clarify that our police officers are mandated to honor warrants, either immigration warrants or criminal warrants, and if there's any kind of crime, they have to intervene. Isn't that correct, Bridger? So it's not they can't turn away when things are like that.
Happy to address this, since Bonnie brought it up, and after her comments concerning the article in the Daily Interlake and the Pilot, I had the same questions that she did in parts of that article. So we did put out a press release concerning this incident, and I'll read portions of that and explain a little bit of the policy, because I don't think it was presented in its entirety, or at least in a way that would bring clarity to that situation. So let me try to clear that up a little bit, if you don't mind. July 12th, we conducted a traffic stop. Whitefish Police Department stops over 4,000 people a year for traffic violations. During that stop, the officer asked for driver's license, insurance, registration. Under state statute, stop and frisk, that's what they're required to ask and receive that information. That was not provided during this stop. So that investigation continued. To drive a motor vehicle away from that traffic stop, you have to have a driver's license. We just can't let somebody that doesn't have insurance or registration and driver's license leave, right? So the officer asked for a driver's license from the individuals in that vehicle. One was produced. Running that driver's license, just because you have a driver's license doesn't mean it's valid, doesn't mean that you have a right to drive. So we run that through NCIC, CGIN, and it came back with a hit reference and immigration warrant. At that time, the officer is obligated to reach out to immigration officials. We did not detain the person for immigration purposes. We detained that person, that vehicle, and the driver for a traffic violation, and that was our investigation. That warrant was relayed to immigration officials, and Border Patrol was dispatched. The officer continued with the traffic stop, trying to determine who could drive, whether the vehicle was insured, whether the individual had a driver's license, and we needed to identify that individual as driving because we issued that individual some citations. And there was a conflict with the registration, and we had to determine that. So it extended that traffic stop a little bit. As the officer was finishing up that traffic stop, Border Patrol arrived on scene, and Whitefish Police Department left. One of the comments that Z made was concerning the question asked by a reporter whether or not I answered that or not. Part of our press release was that any information concerning the immigration investigation needs to be referred to the Border Patrol. They conducted that investigation. The police department did not. We did not serve a warrant on that individual. We were notified of the warrant, and we directed our questions and that we had the individual to immigration. That's the proper venue to ask that question on where the warrant came from and what was it. It would be through immigration, not the Whitefish Police Department. We did not serve that warrant. Our detention was for the traffic stop and the traffic stop alone. We encounter many warrants when we conduct traffic. Civil, criminal. We wade through that. Every court issues them different from every state. And we get warrants and notifications from every state and federal agencies as well. So the officers did an outstanding job. They were polite, they were courteous, they respected everybody that was involved. They conducted our business on behalf of the citizens of Whitefish and the city of Whitefish, enforcing state and local laws. And when confronted with a federal immigration warrant, they notified federal immigration officials. Pretty straightforward.
Thank you. And could you just explain what a warrant is for people that I've never had a warrant yet. I mean, I'm 67, so hopefully not too soon, but
That's a good
could
thing,
you just
Rebecca.
explain what a warrant is for people that haven't had one?
For sure. Most of the warrants we deal with are criminal warrants, and we get a call from a reporting person that somebody stole something, or we pull somebody over. Let's do a really simple one. We pull someone over for not having a driver's license and not having insurance and registration. We give them a notice up here. They don't appear on that. The court will issue a warrant because they didn't show up on their appearance for the citation. The court will issue a warrant for their arrest to bring them forth to the judge so they can explain why they didn't show up, and then address the issue, the situation that they were stopped for. It could be a theft, it could be for assault. There's plenty of lawyers up here now or present that could explain probably a lot better than I can, but we serve those warrants. They're order to detain that person from a judge.
Right, because a judge has said this person didn't do what they were supposed to do, and we need to have them come back to check on what they were
Correct.
supposed
Or
to
there's probable
do.
cause that a crime was committed, or there's probable cause that the federal government needs that person to be brought forth because they're not here legally.
And our police force has no choice. They have to act on a warrant if one shows up when they're running a scan of someone's background.
That's correct. And we do
Yeah.
confirm every warrant that comes across. Rather than just arresting on that face, we detain the person. We contact that agency of what the warrant is listed under, and we ask them to confirm the warrant. A lot of jurisdiction issues, whether they're going to extradite that individual, there's a lot of things come out. And the officer is allowed to extend that stop in a reasonable amount of time to confirm that warrant.
Thanks for going long on this, because it's really complicated and it's something new in our country. But I just really wanted the public to know that the police are required to follow the law, and they're required to work with immigration. And sometimes from the outside, it doesn't look like they're doing things right, but they actually are doing things according to procedure. And so I wanted to just clear that up.
And if I could,
I probably made
one
it
more
worse,
thing.
but yeah, go ahead, Bridger.
You know, our policy that we did release, and this policy was released to the media as well. Under detentions, this is our immigration violations policy, and under detentions, the first sentence of this policy is the one that keeps on being published. And it says, an officer should not detain any individual for any length of time for a civil violation of federal immigration laws or a related civil warrant. That's what makes the paper, and that's what makes comment. This is a 3-page policy. The second paragraph of that, an officer who has reasonable suspicion that an individual already lawfully contacted or detained has committed a criminal violation of federal immigration law may detain the person for a reasonable period of time in order to contact federal immigration officials to verify whether an immigration violation is a federal or civil violation or a criminal violation. The policy also states under information sharing, no member of this department will prohibit or in any way restrict any other member from doing any of the following regarding the citizenship or immigration status, lawful or unlawful, of an individual, which is straight out of 8 U.S. Code 1373. Sending information to or requesting or receiving such information from federal immigration officials, maintaining such information in department records, exchanging such information with any other federal, state, or local entity. The police department is acting within federal law. Our state law that actually passed this year, which I mentioned, investigative stop and frisk, 465-401, subsection 3. A peace officer who has lawfully stopped a person or vehicle under this section may make a reasonable attempt upon reasonable suspicion and when practicable to determine the immigration status of a person, except if the determination may hinder or obstruct an investigation, the peace officer shall make report to a federal immigration agency as defined in 2716-801 if a person stopped under this section is not lawfully present in the United States. Again, the officers are following our policy. They notified a supervisor like we asked them to, and we set in a new procedure with the department just to bring clarity and a little more scrutiny under these situations. And they're following state, federal law and policy. They're doing what they need to do. They're doing their job.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything more?
No, I'm
Because
done. Thank you.
I mean, I don't want to make it worse, but I do feel like we're in an unusual circumstance nationally right now we haven't seen some of the behaviors before. But thank you for going long on that because I know the public is concerned about it. That's all I got.
Can I add something really
Sure,
quickly?
Angie.
Z said something to the effect that this was racial profiling. I mean, one thing Bridger didn't say that I think is very important to note is that this vehicle was traveling 17 miles over the posted speed limit. This was not a case where the police officer noticed somebody with different skin color and just pulled them over. I mean, they were speeding. So that was the initial reason for the stop. So.
And I think it's always good to live in a town where people care too much than too little. So sometimes we talk a lot to work through things. Hopefully with the result that we all understand one another. But thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rebecca. Ben?
So the annual ritual of putting twice the population of the town in the field just to the east has concluded. And I was wondering if there was any after-action reports with respect to impact on city services or infrastructure.
The Office of Emergency Services, Flathead County, held a after-action review today. I did not attend that. Deputy Chief Conway did. I had another meeting during that time. I will say that we were underwhelmed with what we saw. A lot of people, but they behaved themselves. We did take some enforcement action. We dumped out a lot of open containers, and we shuttled people around within our community, but it was kind of just a summer weekend for Whitefish as far as the police department.
Glad to hear it.
I'll add mine into that too. So the fire department is a little more heavily involved in the actual event just because of our reach out into the county with the Whitefish Fire Service area. So we had 7 staff members, including myself, there all 3 days, about 15 to 16 hours a day to manage the fire and EMS response in coordination with Logan Health. They provided nurses and a couple EMTs to help with the inside event EMS. We transported 7 people out of that event, which at one point meant that all 3 of our available ambulances for the city were out at Under the Big Sky for a short period of time. We generally try to just keep one out there, keep the other 2, plus the normal on-duty crew is in town, ready for response, and then we hire back off-duty firefighters to staff the event so that we don't lose any of our response in town for that. That was just a little bit of an unusual moment, which probably lasted a total of 45 minutes, where we had, 3 ambulances that were transporting to the hospital before they were clear and had limited response capabilities back in town. So that was a little bit of could have been a strain. We were fortunate we didn't have any other incidents going on at that moment. So we always see a little bit extra strain with the event, but the organizers are actually doing a pretty good job of making sure that everything's set up in advance in the planning, and they're including us in everything so that we try to make it as little of an impact as we can. And I think each year it's getting slightly better with the organization on that. So it hasn't been too big of a strain on us. We're able to kind of manage it so far, trying to pull back and not over commit resources to their event as well. So
That's great. I appreciate it. I had one other thing. I saw the fire just over the viaduct, and I wanted to thank everybody for putting that out promptly before it spread to other buildings, including our new affordable housing apartment complex next door. I was curious if the remnants of that building may eventually go away, or if we are doomed to have a burned down building forever.
I can probably speak to that, Ben. I spoke with the owner's attorney last week, and they seem willing and able to clean it up. They are obtaining bids right now. We did learn late last week that there's going to probably, EPA is probably going to require some, or DEQ is going to require some asbestos remediation. I don't know how that looks given the shell of the building now, but it looks like we're going to see that cleaned up without further city action or funds being extended. So,
Just a couple of things. I share Andy's view that we all appreciate the fact that we've had a good rainy July. At the same time, we had a very scary fire in town. I think that I would lend my voice to doing the things that we know we can do and would do under the community fire protection thing that we're going to end up with sometime a year from now. I would really encourage us to begin to take some affirmative, real steps to make this community a little more fire resilient, and to do it now, and to do it soon. Putting it off is just not the right thing to do, in my view. The other thing I have is that Shirley Jacobson was kind of special to me as well. She gave up her seat on this on the city council, and I was the one that was appointed to follow in her follow in her position for my first term or my first year term or so on city council. And Shirley could not have been more genuine, helpful, available at any turn when I had questions, and I had plenty. She was a great lady. She did great service for this community, and I think will be remembered for a long time in this community. So I couldn't have been happier to have been the beneficiary of her seat, and I hope I did in her mind at least a decent job, given that. And that's all I have for this evening. With that, I think we'll be adjourned. Thank you. Yes, what? No, that's Riz. She runs the Whitefish House.